think I'll leave it to you for you to introduce yourself. But yeah, just know that like he's an amazing supervisor and also is an amazing researcher. So yeah, just tell him because he's here. And then I hope you can enjoy his lecture. And then I'm also here, so let's see how it's going.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Give me 1 second to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, no, come on. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's see.
working.
Just can you get full screen?
Can we get full screen from Zoom? I don't. It's written like full screen at the bottom. At that menu, it's at the bottom, full screen. Yeah.
Whoa.
Thank you.
That's okay. Okay, thanks. Hi everyone. How are you doing? So can I start by asking if all of you are, is anyone here undergrad or everyone is postgrad student? Postgrad. Who is from computer science/engineering background? Who is not from computer science/engineering background? Oh, the majority. So what kind of social science, political, what are you doing? Just political science.
Political science.
Psychology.
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay, good. Okay, so thanks for the invitation and the introduction. So as I mentioned, I'm working at the School of Informatics, which is computer science, doing a lot of work related to big data and NLP and AI. However, I will try to make this talk as general as possible, so I will not to get into really technical details. However, if you need to ask technical details about details, technical ones, just ask. Okay. Before I start, actually, you're lucky because in Edinburgh we started a new course last year called Computational Social Science. So I'm taking the first lecture from this course, which I didn't teach. It's from a colleague who's actually Jan. He's Turkish and he's working in Edinburgh. And we are going to use it to use the topic. Then after that, I will talk about some of the research studies I did that I think will be like some useful examples about what you can do with computational social science studies. So the first part will be a lecture and then a couple of talks. But before I start, I can actually introduce quickly myself. So my research is mainly in two fields: computational social science, which is simply using data science and AI to study a social phenomena or understand user behavior. So people coming from sociology or political science or social science will understand actually the research question is coming from your field. It's not actually computer science, but we're using computer science as a methodology in this case. And you can think about many examples like polarization, how people actually online hate speech, who's spreading fake news, religious presence online, and different things. And the other part I'm doing as well is using data science and AI also, but in this case to process language. And LLMs is very known now. It's part of the outcomes of this, but I'm looking on specific tasks like hate speech detection, like sarcasm detection, text identification, cultural bias in LLMs, all of these kinds of things, which is, I can see actually is kind of related to social. I'd like to use it for the social science approach. And my focus usually is general, however, I have a specific focus on the understudied communities and languages. So I want to study in the US. Thousands of people studying US politics. I'm in the UK. I studied a little bit of the UK politics, but I really care more about the Middle East, about the Muslim world. This is actually which not many people are studying now. And for the languages, I'm looking for Arabic, for Persian. I'm happy to study Turkish, all the languages that are not English, because English many are studying them anyway. And this actually is my group in Edinburgh. This is where Dilara has been there, part of it, SMASH. We call ourselves Social Media Analysis and Support for Humanity. And this is actually the group. These are the active members, and these are the graduated members. You can see someone here. And
that's a very old picture.
And I think and we are three directors of the group, myself, Bjorn, Ross, who is a social professor, and Tuljan is actually, he actually joined us like a couple of years ago. He's doing amazing work as well. And we have many, these are the PhD students and postdocs only. We do the masters with the quite 30 slides to them. But these are actually masters and postdocs. I'm sorry, PhDs and postdocs. So the today outline, I have been told yesterday that I have 2 hours. So I have to prepare something, which I prepared it like just before. It is why I'm late. I was preparing the slides. So hopefully it will be fine. I didn't repeat all this before, by the way. So I'm experimenting with you. So we'll start by one lecture, which is Introduction to Computational Social Science. What is the field? What is actually required there? How to make a process for studying something using computational social science. Then we have 2 talks with many examples from computational social science studies. I think in these talks I will cover maybe 20 papers or something. Okay, so this is why I'm not getting into much details. I'm giving you general examples, but at the end, if you need to ask any details about how this is done exactly, we can go deeper into this. It depends on how long you would like to stay. Okay, especially I don't know how long would I stay because I never told this before. So let's start by computational social science basic research steps. I'd like to do a research using computational social science. What are the basic components here? The first of all, I have to come up with a research question or a hypothesis, which is usually coming from the social/political/ sociological field. Like, for example, what makes persuasion effective? I like to say persuasion method, what makes something like this effective? And I can come and make a hypothesis in this case. I think evidence, if I provided evidence with my persuasion, actually I will make it more effective. So this is a general research question. Then it comes to the part about data collection. I have now a research question. What kind of data can use to study this? It can be posts, it can be surveys, it can be different things. Then I have to sample my population. I have to study everything. So how can I sample it? For example, I can actually go and search for a specific subreddits. I'm going to slides from Reddit, for example. I can get some Reddits and I try to see actually a sample of this data can be representative to answer my first question. I will go each step of this in details. Just check. Then okay, now I have data and a good sample of it to use. What kind of methods and analysis I can apply to be able to answer my research question and prove my hypothesis or not? So I have to think about what kind of evidence I need to identify that. And at the end, what will be the measures of report outcome that I will show that actually will validate or invalidate my hypothesis and answer my first question. So let's start by each part of this and what actually could be done in each step of this. First of all, the research question and hypothesis. They are always related. I have to think about identify a gap, something I'm thinking of, or a claim I have in mind, or something I don't know about. I need to know what is going on, and with some curiosity I have about it. Then I will start to think about, oh, I can have a question related to this. Then I can even start refining the question. It can be a little bit more specific, or actually something that can I measure it. I need something that I can measure it, and can be guided by data as well. I can think about a research question, but there is no data that shows it. It doesn't make any sense. I think about something that I have seen around my community, around on the data, online, or wherever, and I'd like to see, oh, I need to measure this if it's doable or not. And it can be always iterative. I can start by something, try to answer it. Oh, I cannot find data for this. I can try to refine a little bit to be more specific with the data I have. And then from there, I create a hypothesis based on a specific theory. Like, if I'm talking about an example about persuasion, I can think about there is some theory saying that elaboration likelihoods model shows that if you show evidence with your persuasion or your arguments, you start to actually be more effective. So I can do that based on my hypothesis and say, yes, this is the theory, I need to prove it or not. And from there, I can start thinking about obvious stuff or existing knowledge to create my hypothesis. This is my research question, and this is my hypothesis that I think would be the answer, but I have to prove it or not prove it. And I think people who can know better than this are not the computer science guys, the political and social science guys. This is how we work. This is the main thing. Now it comes to, I thought about my first question. I have a very clear hypothesis. I need to work to study this. Then I will go to the next step, which is data collection. The very basic method with the traditional social and political science studies will be using surveys and interviews. You try to think about, make a survey, asking the questions you want, find a sample of people, try to stratify a sample from a certain community, and give them the survey to answer it. And later on, you actually start to make some interviews with some people with them, 5, 50, 10, whatever you have, and discuss it more in depth with them to see actually what is going on with more qualitative analysis in this case. This is a very basic traditional social/political science studies. And we use it, by the way, in computational social science. But usually it's not our first step. There is another method which is observing, which actually trying to do some experiments. Try to actually go with, for example, like in medicine research, you have some patients and you'd like to see if a treatment is effective or not. You try to make a treatment group, then take actually a follow-up group and try to make this. And later on, you have to another control group with some follow-up and see actually if this match to me say that this medicine is effective or not. Think about it in this way, that you can do it in this way. However, when we say computational social science, and for someone like me who is more quantitative analyst, I like to do more quantitative analysis, we have to always think about big data. There is a lot of big data on this. And we can see now the LLMs are amazing because actually they have been trained by a huge amount of data, big data. So what about using this online available data to study my things? But what kind of big data I have? Can you think of some big data that you can use to answer some computational social science questions? Social media. Social media. What else?
World Bank. World Bank.
Yeah, this is another thing.
Searching tools.
Searching tools. Searching tools. Actually, you're browsing information.
Parliament speeches.
Speeches. Excellent. I'd like to study actually, for example, political studies. I'd like to see actually how the political studies, the speeches or statements by politicians has evolved in the last 100 years. You can find this data online. And you can, actually, even if they're not transcribed, you have tools now to transcribe it and analyze it. So actually, this is available. And the real example actually at the last part of my talks today about a study that we did. We transcribed 3,000 hours of in interviews to be enabled actually doing computational social science research on some topics. So the good thing about big data is cheap. It's available and it's cheap because you just go and download. Most of these, many of these are free and public data sources are available. You can think about Reddit, Twitter, Elon Musk came in and didn't make it free, but it was free at some point. And Common Crawl, where you have actually a snapshot of the internet. However, of course, it has some limitations and some ethical problems that we will discuss. But let me ask you, before I will go ahead, what kind of limitations you might have with this kind of data? Let's say social media.
Noise. Privacy.
Privacy is one. Noise. What kind of noise?
Includes lots of information. I mean, maybe not the word search for.
Yeah, that is spams, for example, or so. Yeah.
What accounts?
Bot accounts, which is part of the noise.
Not design. So they see the
Yes, which is noise. That's kind of related.
It's not representative.
Excellent one part. It's not representative. Not if 90% of the users on Twitter say something, they are supporting it. It doesn't mean 90% in the real ground are doing it. Okay, that would be much easier, but it's not the real life. We will discuss this in details afterwards. And the ethical problems, of course, like privacy and other things. However, the good thing about the big data is always on. You can see the data coming non-stop, and it's even increasing over time. So constantly being collected, and you can even do longitudinal studies now. Actually, in my group, we have now 12 years of Twitter archival data from 2012 to 2023, when actually Elon Musk closed the API. So, however, this allows us to do longitudinal studies for 10 or 12 years. We are studying something over years. And Reddit, actually, it's there for 20 years now. You can do studies on this. And you can think about YouTube and other things. You can use different sources. And of course, the good thing is unexpected events like crisis, disaster, protest, World Cup, whatever it is, you can see actually the data happening, and you can see these kind of spikes happening in the data easily. And there is actually one very interesting benefit of this.
Natural experiment.
Natural.
Natural quasi-experimental design.
That's, you can't see my next slide. It's actually not reactive. You watch the people behavior without asking them. You don't go for someone, sir, do you share hate speech on social media? Are you hateful person? Are you racist? They will never say yes. But you just go to their account and see what's going on. And this is a big difference between this data and the traditional methods. You have to think about, I'm watching what is going on a larger scale. Yes, not representative to everything, but I have a very large sample that I can study what's going on. It's not like surveys where people have a reaction there. Even if anonymous, it's still people think about how they answer, not behaving without thinking, as you can see on social media. And
social media itself somehow a natural experiment. It's new, you know, you can compare society before and after, like AI and social media Twitter.
This is true, kind of true, because social media is kind of getting old, very old now. We were talking about LLMs and their interaction with them. Another thing is a new era. However, it's still social media. Yes, it's something that people go and share, and without thinking about actually what is the reaction. Okay, especially for some platforms like Reddit, where you don't share your true identity, you say whatever you want. Okay. And when it comes to the sampling bias, so you have to think about where you're sampling from. I'm not sure if you understand this, but this actually was an interesting experiment. I'm not sure where exactly, but it's actually it was actually a cigarette trash, and it's asking who you think is best footballer, Ronaldo or Messi, and people actually would go and try to compete. It's just encouraging people not to throw out their remaining part of the cigarette on the floor, just putting it inside to support your thing. So you have to think about the sampling itself. Probability sampling, is it a true random? If you get a true random thing, this is ideal, but it's not easy. If I put this trash can in Portugal, will be different than put in Argentina, different than in Barcelona versus Real Madrid. You have to think actually where you're going. And the non-probability sampling, some of the actually samples will be like really hard to sample if you just pick a sample. Like there are some communities which are really, really small, less than 1%. If you take a sample, you might miss them total or very small sample that's not representative. And this is why it comes to some controlled studies sometimes. I have to focus on, for example, males or a specific age group. This is why you usually do it with social science, but when you work with big data, you have to think about it as well. And this is actually something we usually say, absolute values versus first derivative. When you're working with big data on social media or online data in general, if I cannot go and say I found 60% are supporting Trump on Twitter and 40% are against him. And this is the representation worldwide, actually, or in the US. It doesn't work this way. However, I'm usually looking at the first derivative. What is it? Is actually how these 6% are changing over time. If after 2 months, 6% became 50% and the 40 became 50, I can guess in the real world, there is actually decline in the support and raise in the opposition. It might be moving from 80 to 6 to 70 and from 20 to 30, but it just show me the direction where people are going. And this is actually, I have to think about the limitation of this kind of data. The real absolute values might not be representative, but actually the change over time might be very, very useful, an indicator. And this is actually exactly what. But you have to take it for granted. We know that big data is biased. And you need to do some work to make actually less biased or actually at least control the research question to be sure that you can work with it. So because we know internet is not real life, it's just a representation of some communities. Platforms have different demographics. For example, Facebook is the old. I'm on Facebook, I'm the old guy here. If you have younger generations, you'll be more on Snapchat or TikTok. And behavioral shift over time is very important here. Regular folks don't use hashtags anymore, for example. Hashtags was very popular like 10 years ago. Now no one is using hashtags anymore. Very rarely to use it. Before it was 20 to 30% of the posts would contain hashtag. And there's actually some theory that the dead internet, that the problem now that because of AI, we are thinking about people are using AI to generate their posts, so actually we're not measuring exactly what people say it's AI is doing it. Even when there is a latest study on Reddit that showed that people were using AI for the persuasion, and it turned out to be very effective. So it's not their own content, it's actually the AI doing it. So this is a very quick point, starting point about the data we can use. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. So now we identify here. Oh, yes.
So what's the problem with big data being non-react? The slide that shows.
Oh, it's actually natural, not reactive. It's actually better. It's not a problem. It's actually something that it's in the favor of big data. So we say actually the problem with surveys sometimes and interviews, sometimes they are reactive. But big data, it's you're capturing what is going on social media, on the internet, on blogs. It's more natural. So this is actually something in the favor of big data.
Kind of reflects the reality.
Yes, exactly. The reality online at least. Okay. Any more questions? Yes, sorry.
Each platform has its own regulations on authority, but I mean, can you generalize from Twitter, or should you just compare Twitter with some other platforms to say that this is the online behavior?
That's a very good question. You have to be very careful with the research question again and what kind of these platforms they're presenting. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can see, for example, we'll see many examples that I really don't care about how many people are supporting a specific group or against it, but I care about their characteristics, for example. So I will show you studies about, I care more about what kind of characteristics they have. They actually, for example, they love a certain kind of music. They actually live in specific demographics. You can see this from social media. This can be generalized. But the specific numbers about what percentage of them are supporting something, it's kind of useless. It doesn't mean anything. So you have to be careful with the research question and what you're trying to answer. Fair enough? Yes.
So there's an issue, like now we have more AI posts on social media. And my question is, do we have a way to prevent or like cleaning those through the data?
I think you need to follow the research coming in the next 3 years to answer this question. It's a research question that everyone's trying to answer now.
Okay.
We don't have an answer for it yet. However, one of the interesting topics now is actually people interaction with AI, or actually when their effect impact on them when exposed to AI. This is one big thing that people are studying right now. Okay, but there is no specific answer. I don't think we have a clear answer in the next 2-3 years. A lot of research to be done. Okay. So at this stage, we have our research question, interesting one. We identify the data use, we understand the ethical and the limitations there. What shall I do? We come to the methods and analysis I need to do. This is what I think everyone agrees. Data is not the exact form required. It's dirty, it's biased, it's unethical sometimes because of privacy, anonymity fit, and open-ended. So what we need to think of is, I have to define the sample and measures, and think about the data pre-processing I need to do, like some kind of cleaning. Is there a way to clean like spams, bots, this kind of thing, normalize it, anonymize it, to do the analysis? Especially I'm doing a big data, I need to analyze it. I really don't care about the person of the owner of this account. I care more about the characteristics of this kind of users. This is one important thing. And then comes to the data labeling. Are these data labeled in the way I need to study? For example, I need to study the support of Trump right now. Is the data labeled to say this person or this tweet is supporting Trump or not? If not, how can I label it? Because if I don't have the label, what shall I analyze? The first and simple thing to think about data labeling is data annotation. For example, does this Reddit comment contain an evidence or not? Yes or no? I can go and read the comment and say yes, it contains it, or not contain it. What is the issue with this kind of method?
so difficult to do manually? Do it manually?
Why?
You should hire someone and if
You might have to, it's fine. What else?
Okay, but we can't scale it. I mean,
Scalability, yes. What else?
subjective.
So it's some of these has to be very subjective as well. So another thing actually, which is come to reporting nomenclature agreements. You know, if the same posts have been shown to two people, would be labeled the same way or not? If the agreement is 99%, that's clear, it's fine, it's not very subjective. But if it's 60%, the task is not very clear in the first place.
Intercoded, if you like.
Exactly. And you can always use this annotated data later. However, this is not scalable. The big thing here, you're talking about big data. Some of the studies I will show you has been based on 150 million tweets. Actually, I have another study, I'm not showing it, was based on 1.2 billion tweets. So I will not go and label this amount of data. This will never happen. So big data is big. And I cannot annotate everything. And a small data, small sample, that's fine. I can annotate it. I will show some studies based on a few hundreds, which is fine. But there are some studies on billions. What should I do? And another solution for this is to use crowdsourcing. So there are some platforms there, like Prolific, like Amazon Mechanical Turk, Upwork, or Apple, that you can hire annotators to actually pay them some amount of money, and they can label some data for you. But there are still some challenges, like finding the right annotators. For example, if we talk about US politics, and we bring people from China, would be able to label it or not. So these kind of things actually, I've been doing recent studies labeling data for hate speech in Iran, in Farsi. Finding annotators like this is not easy. And the cost and time, it still requires some cost and will take some time to scale this. And of course, at the end, it might be low quality annotators at the end, or annotations. We don't know how they are going to do it. And recently, the individual might not be doing the job. They might actually put it to ChatGPT and label it, and they take the money, and they don't know how the quality is going. So there are some challenges. What could be another solution for labeling big amount of data?
LLMs.
LLMs, yes.
Can use active learning to start small and use the AI or system to kind of improve the performance.
Can you explain what is active learning for non-computer science students?
So let's say we annotate 500 samples and we train a model, detect whether something is, let's say, hidden or not. And then we use that model on, let's say, 2,000 samples. And then we kind of manually check the answers of the model. For the ones that they are confident, we add them to our main pool. And then we retrain this model and then continue like this. Exactly.
So simply using AI to help. And the basic method here is, before LLMs, is the simple classifiers using AI models. That you take a small sample, let's say 500 as you mentioned, and that's, you know the my slides better than me. So manually annotate it and just train a classifier somehow, some kind of classifier, machine learning classifier. It can be anything, can be deep neural networks, can be SVM, it can be logistic regression, it can be Bayesian, whatever it is. And you create a model that later on, take the 500 samples, take all the annotated data, the millions, and you get all the data somehow annotated automatically. Another process to use active learning, you can take a sample of these outcomes, verify their outcome. If there are some problems, put in additional training data and keep the model and keep doing it. So this process helps to get some applied on a big data. And you will show examples of few of those. But the problem here again, that is it a good classifier in the first place? And it's based on the classification of manual annotation of small amount of data. And the bottleneck again is this part. I still have to annotate something. Which brings us to what you've suggested, the big giant LLMs. The whole internet is trained on it, is trained on the whole internet, and actually it should behave better on many cases. However, what could be the problems with LLMs to annotate the data?
They are mainstreamly biased. English, just they are doing best in English.
They are doing better in English. Okay, what else? What else?
Privacy is the black box, so human must be in the loop. Otherwise, it is.
Human must. This is a good point. Yes.
There's alignment issues. What we understand from hate can be different from the model's understanding from hate.
So this is based on the task. What task you are dealing with? So you mentioned almost everything. So first of all, for some languages, its performance is better than others. When we tested it for Arabic, official Arabic, which is called modern standard Arabic, the one used in the news, it performs amazing. When it comes to dialect Arabic, it performs like Moroccan Arabic or Egyptian. Egyptian Arabic is doing well, but Moroccan or Yemeni or some stuff, it's not doing well. When it comes to other languages, like maybe Turkish, Persian, Tajik, these kinds of languages, some of the stuff they can do it, from other stuff it's very bad, like hate speech, for example. Which brings us to the other thing, the task itself. Some tasks are easy, like sentiment, easy. But hate speech, not sure, sarcasm, I don't know. These kinds of tasks you're looking for. We are doing actually a task now about hallucination in actually religious text, like fabricating Quran and Hadith for users. The models generate Quran or Hadith. So they are doing bad with it. So how we can solve these kinds of problems? So imagine you understand these limitations. What else? Imagine you find an LLM which is amazing. Gemini 3.5 now flashes out. Gemini 7.8 came out. Amazing. What is the problem? It's doing amazing. What will be the problem of using it for annotation?
Reproducibility.
One can think, yeah, but you can use the same version again.
With Gemini, you are sharing the data. Like
if the data, one thing you're sharing the data, you can say this data is public anyway. But of course, if it's private, this is a problem. This is why big companies, they don't want to share their data outside. But what else?
Very expensive.
Exactly, the cost. The cost. Microsoft just last month announced that you should stop, you have a limit on using Claude because they started to the salary of the employees actually is less than Claude.
But
So we're keeping our costs, we are cheaper than AI.
can use open LLMs that fix the safety issue, and you can fine tune it. It's free.
That's excellent, but you don't know the performance will how it would be. The performance would be less, which actually brings us to this point. Quality of the annotation versus the cost of the annotation. You can use open and you can use Gemma. Gemma 4 is amazing, but for some tasks, no, it's bad. And then you have to go for, I would like to use Gemini, the model that is, we don't know how many parameters it has, which probably trillions, and it's amazing, but the cost of it is very, very expensive. So you have all of these problems, okay? And by the way, the cost we're paying now is 1/10 of the real cost the companies are paying. Many money is being burned right now because it's competition. At some point, when only one company remains and other are killed, it will actually be more expensive. So you have to think about this. Okay. Okay. So, but we have different methods here. Okay. Annotation is a sample. You can train your own classifier. I can end up training my SVM, nice classifier, very small for tasks doing well. It's fine. I use it. For some challenging tasks, I can use open source LLMs to use it and tune it. For other tasks, I can just use these paid LLMs, but I have to think about the limitation. I can labeling 1.2 billion tweets on Gemini will cost me a lot. I will never get fund for this. Another interesting thing about the data, we have been always thinking about data as text. But then actually the good thing about data, big data online, it's everything. It's multimodal. It can be images, it can be network. Who is connecting with who? Who is sharing it with who? Who's replying to? And what kind of images are shared there? And analyzing this data is important. There is LLMs, you can use it to analyze the images, and actually there's many methods for network analysis as well. So the data is not just text, it's a lot of things. Okay? Then it comes to the measurements and reports. Now you have your research question, collected the data, filtered it, and labeled it somehow. And I need now to analyze what's going on to a research question. It can be things like community findings with its network or build a data story around it. For example, going back to the persuasion example we had, I can analyze 100 arguments created by AI and check 30 out of 100 I found to be persuasive, so it's equal to 30. So I can show a graph, nice graph like this, 30% are persuasive, 70% others. And I can compare it later with humans, checking their arguments, and I found actually humans only has 20% of them persuasive. Then I can to see actually that AI is more persuasive than humans by 50%. Very simple statistics, and you can get some interesting findings. Or you can use it for prediction. I can collect data from the past, forecast it to the future, and predict the unknown. And I have many examples of this coming out afterwards. So you can use it for analysis or just for prediction. So, can we predict stuff like which arguments are more persuasive? If I train the model to see which if this is persuasive enough or not, I can build a model that a new one is coming in, I can say it's going to be persuasive or not. And you can apply to many things like the next US president. It has been applied. By the way, one of my papers that I'm not covering today is called Analyzing US Election 2016, which showed that Trump is doing much better than Hillary Clinton on Twitter. And it went viral on social media. Actually, even WikiLeaks shared our paper saying that because we found that WikiLeaks was one of the major things that created narrative against Hillary Clinton. And they were so proud of it.
I remember you were rejected because, like, was that the case?
It was rejected twice.
You were like, I predicted this, but you don't want to accept.
Yes, and actually, one of the reviews mentioned it's clear that the authors of the papers are supporting Trump. It was anonymous. I shared you my picture only, you will understand that. No, it's the data sharing that's supporting Trump. You can think of spreading corona. It's network. You can do that. Price of Bitcoin, if we can do that, it would be amazing.
But it is still, it is not representative of the public, but we can still predict.
Yes, our findings was saying Trump is doing way much better than Hillary Clinton on social media. That's it. We didn't say anything on the ground. And I can remember I had a tweet, I can have a screenshot of it in 2016 before the elections by 2 weeks, saying if Trump performance in the election was like Twitter, he would win. And he won that. It was in 2016. Or you can try and predict who's going to win the World Cup. Based on analyzing players and actually what's going around. We predict, then what? You can make millions of from unprecedented trading, of course, if you can. Or reveal the findings. Your prediction about your prediction methods, which is research papers, and characterize the phenomena study itself. Like you classifies AI arguments are more persuasive, AI is more persuasive. Another thing, classifies on links, have links inside the comment itself becomes more effective. And actually one of the studies saying that. And you can have a model. So you can characterize your phenomenon. If you're studying something now I can characterize what are the characteristics of this kind of group of posters or people or anything. I will see a lot of examples. This is the end of my lecture. If you have any questions, we can stop and ask, and then I will start my examples, many studies about this. Any questions before I start? Yes.
I have a question. So I've done some archival research, but this was like manually both on my computer and physically. I was wondering if it can be done with the computational social science, with like all of the newspapers and studying it. Is there some study like this, or is there a method?
It's on what data? Which data?
Newspapers.
Yes, you can, of course.
Is there like any study I've done with it?
Yes, but there is a search for media bias group. I think it's a group in Netherlands or Germany, I can't remember. And they have amazing research papers on news bias, analyzing news bias and they're publishing their papers in ICSM and CSW, the latest competition social science venues. And I have a recent studies that's not published yet, still under review. I can share it with you once I have it. Okay? Yeah, can discuss more. Okay. So I will.
I'm sorry. On prediction. So imagine you have predicted the next US president, but is this reliable or not? I mean, you should test it with previous elections and see if your model would also predict them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did it.
I didn't do it myself, but I have a friend who was working at MIT, and he produced the model that predicted the elections, the counts of elections in the US. Very nice paper. And after he published it, he got an offer from down the street. And what's the street in the US which has the money, everything? Wall Street. And he's working on it, and now he's not thinking about research anymore. He's rich enough now. It can be applied because the same model applied for politics can be applied for finance. Okay, so just being sure. Okay, so I will go with the second talk. Not this one, and this one. Yes. You need a break, or you're fine. My is supposed to be. Talking about prediction and privacy, this talk is about it. And there is another talk afterwards if you're still up for it. It's optional, right? And the interesting thing about this talk, it has a lot. I think all the PhD work of Pilar. So
The reason I think I remember the reason I got hired by you because you were doing a lot of prediction talks and everyone asking me about privacy. And I applied and you were like, you're working on privacy, you need to come. I kind of remember you saying that, but I'm not sure if that's the whole gist of it. But yeah,
it will justify exactly how it fits into the work I was doing here. But I hope it will not present.
Okay,
if I say something wrong, just correct me.
I'll fix you if you say something.
Yeah, exactly. So actually it's about how we might be exposed online because of our behavior online, and do people really care or know what's going on or not? It's another thing that is a part of our privacy thing. So the outline of this one, yeah, it's 3 parts. This talk is 3 parts. One is how some of the steps that we use to predict user information, some information about the user, which is related to the part related to prediction. Then the other thing about the user's attitude or understanding of privacy in general. Then is there a way to help user to protect their privacy from using AI? So let's start by part 1, predicting user information and behavior. I will show only 3 examples here, but in this next talk, if you're up to it, there will be more examples. Okay. So one of the big work I was working on is doing stance prediction. Try to see if someone is supporting or against a specific topic. Okay. And there is an important thing to mention: stance is different than sentiment. Because some people, this is one of the big problems when people work on this. They can say, I measure the sentiment about this topic, and if it's 50% positive, then 50% are supporting it. If it's 30% negative, then 30% are against it, and 20% are neutral. It's not like this way. Because if I said actually, for example, I am sad that Trump lost against Biden, what is the sentiment in this post? Sentiment is negative, but what is the stance towards Trump in this post? Supportive.
Stance is the sentiment related to something.
Yeah, but I still feel sad towards Trump. But actually, I'm supporting it. So it's different. And I have another study about stance versus sentiment, and they are totally independent. Actually, it was interesting to find that most people communicate their stances in a negative sentiment. Regardless, okay? So it's totally independent in signals. This is one information. But okay, about stance prediction. We use the data set from Semival. I think some of you might hear about this kind of campaigns of providing data. It was actually 5 topics covered there about either the data is labeled being by the stance, either for supporting, for, or against it, or actually not. You don't know either. And we have the 5 topics, which is abortion, atheism, feminism, Hillary Clinton, and climate change. Okay, so you can find some of these are social, some are political, some are actually even religious topics. And the interesting thing at the time, the set of the art is using SVMs, simple SVMs, achieving around 70% F scored. And there are some approaches people start using deep learning for around less than SVM. Actually, SVM was doing better. SVM is support vector machines. It's a kind of machine learning, simple machine learning method for classifying things. And all of the people were focusing on analyzing what is in the text, and from the text, can you predict is it supporting or not? We had a research question in this study saying how predicting stance could be done if. What about if a user never discussed the topic? So they share stuff, but they never discuss the topic itself. Can I still predict their stance around this topic? And what if the user never tweeted? You know, these users don't tweet a lot, don't tweet at all. Can I just predict anything? And what if they don't have any content or any activity? Can I predict anything about them? So detecting stance in 4 situations here. The first situation, when you have the user speaks about the topic itself. They say something about it. They say actually they're supporting it. What kind of features I can use for this user to represent to the user? I'm asking you. I have a user who's talking about a certain topic, like the US politics, and I'd like to see if they are supporting Trump or not. What kind of information about them I can use?
For example, flags.
First America, some speech,
direct. The text, right, simply. Yeah, which can include the emoji and everything. So the simply is the text they can share. Okay? Imagine there is another user that they share stuff online, but they never discuss this topic, but however they interact with others. They go and they share some other stuff and go and reply and mention others, retweet some things. What kind of information here I can use for that?
networks.
Excellent. Yes, something else?
It's the direction of their activity or interaction, whether it's supporting the supporting group or.
Excellent. So the interaction network, who they are interacting with. They might not discuss these politics, but they are interacting with others. I can use it as a signal. Imagine that we have a third type of users, which are this kind of silent users. They are silent, they don't share, they don't comment, they don't retweet anything. However, they are kind enough when they share something, they can like it for you. You know, these kind of people. Anyone, do we have any silent users here? Yeah, we have few. So what kind of signal I have for them?
Profile picture.
I mean, they're supporting. Like,
yeah, profile picture would be very racist if you're racist. If there is a paper actually came out.
I think there was a study that ChatGPT can find political stance by only.
I'm sure these people will not publish because of ethical considerations. I know because it's very stereotyping, but it's true. Yeah, you can guess I'm not Trump supporter, but but another thing that we have actually, what kind of content they like? So they like some stuff.
Or who they follow, isn't that?
That's a good question, which brings us to the fourth type of user, which is those totally, for those are the preferences, what kind of things they like. The fourth type is those passive users. Even the like, they don't do it. So, and you just scroll and see what's going on, and you never feel they exist. What kind of network information I have? They are following, they still follow something. Though the connection and everything. Okay? So we have 4 types of users, and we would like to see if we can predict their stances based on these different types of features. So what kind of video stance? Remember when we use the text, the best performance was around 70%, 69 something. So when we use the interaction network, whom you're interacting with, without anything else, the performance was actually higher. When we use the preference network, what kind of things you like, what accounts you like, stuff for that, it was actually higher than text as well. Well, if you don't have anything, just the people you follow, the performance was higher.
Aren't they all the same in terms of effect size, things like that? I mean, 72%, or
And we are, but actually the performance without using the text is amazing. And actually when we, I don't have these details here, but when we checked actually the overlap between what you like and what you interact with and what you follow, it's very minimal. You usually like stuff that for people you don't follow, but it's still indicated. However, if you have all the signals and you decide to combine them, you get the best performance. So by asking what can reveal my stance, it's actually what I say, my activity online, my preferences online, actually my existence online is enough. Just following some accounts, I can predict what I'm supporting. So the outcome here, our signals exposes. Opinion and sense are predictable even when no public is stated. Okay? Let's give another example. Yes.
We have the data about their interaction or activity. Or
Yes, we probe it and we got the user profile and we track everything from it.
How did you validate it?
Sorry?
How did you validate that
We had the labels from what they said that they are supporting something. And we hidden this text and we started to use other things.
but maybe you're right. I mean, okay, your prediction, if online behavior shows, for example, I am a supporter for Trump, but maybe I'm not. How would you know?
We only label the users with explicitly said I'm supporting Trump. So if we don't have anything, we just hidden it so we can analyze the other side. Fair enough?
Okay, so you give them some demographic, surveys, and you also collect their usernames. This is the methodology.
And we didn't use surveys. We actually had people said, I'm supporting Trump for the election. I'm against Hillary Clinton. I think abortion should, I'm pro-life. From this tweet, I learned that this user stands. And then I deleted it, hidden it, and used the other signals. Okay, so I have the label explicitly mentioned there. Okay.
So just to clarify, so all of the stances were understood from people who actively tweeted.
For
About that
mention explicitly.
So when you talk about passive users, you're not looking at people who are actually passive. They're people who do tweet about political things.
I simulated it, yes. I simulated it. I didn't everything, I just kept the connection network.
So it's not necessarily different user groups.
Yeah, no different user, same user, but we just simulated if they are passive and we deleted everything else.
So they might have different online behavior than people who are actually passive users.
Of course, this is something that this is one of the limitations here, yes. But it just gives us an indication what's going on. Okay. The second thing is actually, can I predict if an account is not the same person? Actually, it's not representing the same. It's like for something like fake accounts for catfishing. Who knows what is catfishing? Okay, not everyone.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so catfishing, it was a new term when we studied this. Simply catfishing is to try to pretend that a personality that you're not you. Okay, you make a fake account and say I'm the president of a certain country and you're not. What kind of platform you might think might be good to study this behavior?
Instagram.
Dating applications, nice.
Everywhere.
Which one do you think would be the extreme, the highest chance of having fake accounts?
Fake accounts.
Instagram. I went to extreme actually. We studied this actually on Pornhub. Interesting, you might think, oh, this is social media. Yes, it's a social media platform. It actually has, we managed from this account, from there to collect 100,000 user accounts. And as any decent social media platform, you will have some of these accounts which are verified. 5% of these were actually verified accounts that we know the identity is true. And it has all the things you can find on social media. You can find the user profile, stuff they share, comments they share with others, have friends and network and everything. Actually, this is one sample of an account there. You can see the ID, the type is verified or not, age 27, she's a girl, single, interested in girls, and alive in the United States, and how many videos she watched versus posted, the friends she has, males and females, and all the comments she added. And of course, I selected the most polite person I could find and gave it some stuff. But we said actually potentially that one people actually have fake accounts there. So the question is there a way that I can find fake accounts within these unverified accounts? What thing they can do here? So one of the things we thought of, okay, what about we have these 5,000 verified accounts, which is a decent amount of data. What about using this data to train classifiers for age and gender prediction? And if I reach the good accuracy with these classifiers, I can apply for those unverified ones and spot if any one of them is claiming something different than the predicted. I can spot potential bias. So this was the main idea. So predicting age and gender, we started to use different features like their comments and their network activity. You can see for gender, I can predict it with 92% accuracy based on your comments and network activity. And for age, I can estimate your age with a high correlation from your comments alone, plus or minus 5 years. So I can say 25, I predict it 25 can be 20 to 30. You can use high correlation. Network didn't help in the age, but only comments. Because if I'm claiming I'm 60 years old, and I write for you, this is great, thanks, I write great GR8, and thanks THX, and I'm 60 years old, doesn't work. So you can actually predict it in a better way. So we use this to apply for the unverified accounts and see actually who potentially might be lying. It was interesting to see that 25% of the accounts, unverified accounts, are lying about their age. And we consider them lying if their age came out to be outside the window of 10 years from the prediction. And it turned out interesting that males pretend to be younger females and females pretend to be elder males. Just to understand, these are the distribution of girls and age of girls and for the liars. Just to give you an indication, it's something like this. These are females that are pretending to be males, and these are males pretending to be young females. And we want to see actually why would they do that? So we did different types of analysis. However, this one was interesting. One example of that. If you are a male, which is blue, interested in girls, you will not get any friends with girls. Small amount. However, if you pretend to be a girl interested in girls, you will get a huge number of friends, girls. On the other side, if you came out to be a girl 20 years old and you don't want any friends, you'll find many requests coming from males telling you, please be my friend. So the best way, I'm a 60 years old man who's bald. No one will care you about him. So kind of actually, girls want peace and guys want popularity. It's just one of the answers. You can read more in the paper.
I wonder if there are any parallels with gaming, because like I guess like my sister does does gaming, and then she also tells me about like how when she like reveals that she's a girl, then she'll instantly get harassment. That's why like the girls are pretending to be males.
That's another example. I think I can give you Haoun Kwak actually is in which university in the US. I can show you his profile. He's done a lot of studies on gaming websites.
Yeah, I'm seeing parallels.
Yes, exactly.
Can I also ask a question?
Yep.
This may be a little bit of a tricky question, but so with these kind of prediction models, and we are now assuming catfishing, and it goes on these guys want there's also a lot of countries and regimes around the world that don't accept gay people or other sexualities. So aren't these types of algorithms and prediction algorithms also know a little bit dangerous to be out there, specifically when they can be combined with IP addresses or other information that we know is easy to
Yes,
access. So how do you kind of navigate that aspect of these prediction?
I will share more about this when it comes to protecting people privacy data.
Okay.
Just sharing, but this is an excellent point. That actually, what is more actually dangerous than even this is the political stances in some authoritarian countries.
Yeah.
Being gay might be accepted in some countries, but if you are against the regime, oh wow, no. So I'm gay, but I'm supporting you. It's fine.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So these kind of things actually, yes, this is a very good question. I will discuss a little bit more in the next talks.
Thanks.
But I'm just showing you that you can predict things about people from their profiles, the age and gender here. And by the way, we didn't, for example, cover that because there are this male, female, or others, or transgender stuff, but there is not enough samples there. You couldn't build a classifier, which is something about this. You have to focus on the popular classifier genders or classes to be able to predict. If you have 5 samples, it's not enough to predict anything. Okay? But
Yes, again, how is it validated? Did you use the 5% of verified accounts?
yeah, verified accounts has been used for testing and performance. I can share with you actually after. Yeah, I have a question as well.
Is there any kind of way to right now, for example, OnlyFans? So there are users that they also show, for example, OnlyFans information. Is there any way also to relate all of this to the amount of the net earnings they have from those social media platforms? So is there any correlation?
Okay, I can share with this. It's not in the paper, but I can share it with you. So when this research was published, it was covered by news media, and BBC covered it as well. And when BBC covered our research, I shared it on my Twitter account, and I found actually comments coming from the official account of Pornhub, saying that they're interested in my research and they'd like to collaborate. So I had a meeting with them for I think an hour with their data science. Amazing, by the way, brilliant data scientists working on it. It was interesting. People start having computer science degrees, top universities working in Pornhub, just if you're looking for a job. And I was actually excited to speak to them because I was ready to collaborate to prevent younger people from going into websites. Because our model can predict the age. If I can predict a minor, I can actually tell them, classifier, don't let him in. And actually, I was telling them you can verify our data because we pretending these are liars. You can check the IP of their country they claim versus the one you have, and you can sell them. But they were not interested in this. They were interested more about actually predicting which users on the free account are potentially going to be paying users. So I told them I'm not ready to help your business, to be honest. So we didn't agree. Yeah. But at the end, I had a meeting with them discussing this.
I feel like with AI, addition of AI, it can be like, and this is 2017, right?
This is 2017, actually.
Like,
there's a recent actually news, and I'm not sure if I've seen this boy who was 18 years old in the US who earned last month $60,000 on OnlyFans using an AI model. Yeah. So this is another thing. Yeah. And by the way, you are following me on Twitter now. I had a week to explain to my wife why Pornhub for me. But anyway, report for research, of course.
For research purposes.
Even minor signals matter. We have seen you can predict stuff about your leanings, you can predict your demographic information using your network, using your text. One of the other studies actually that has been done was demographic prediction. Again, another study about demographic prediction. And there are many research showing that you can predict user demographics from the text. And we have shown it a little bit here. However, we wanted to expand it, make it more, because this was like how many accounts, not big number of accounts, 5,000 accounts. So we collected actually 20,000 users from Twitter, from worldwide, New York City, London, and Johannesburg in South Africa, which has diverse people living there, black and white, and different ethnicities and genders. And we started to annotate them manually, crowdsourcing in this case, for their ethnicity and gender. We started by 40,000 accounts, and we were asking the annotators to check from their profile picture. It's clear, they're not sharing the same searching for the person, not a famous person. So labeled them, and we ended up with only 20,000 labeled for what is the ethnicity and what is the gender for them. And we collected all their posts from their timelines. And we started to use this to predict their age and gender. And with this, a big amount of data, we managed to get a gender performance around 80% from the text, and ethnicity around 85.2. I can predict actually. So the gender here was male and female, and the ethnicity white, black, and others. Okay. However, we wanted to dig a little bit deeper and see. At that time, many people actually were using emoji in their profiles, or texting and sharing stuff. So there were around, and we heard there's many emoji out there. 20% of the social media posts contain emoji. Like 1 of each 5, you'll find an emoji there. I think it's even more now than at that time. I think people now just tweet emoji and nothing else. So the question was, does general emoji use different demographics? Are males and females using different types of emojis? Are whites and blacks different types of emojis? And if they are using different stuff, they can use emojis to predict instead of the text, their gender and ethnicity. So we are starting to study what are the top used emojis in general. These are the top used emojis. You can see that crying smiley faces are coming top, then heart. You can see this. Probably these are the top ones you're using anyway. And I said, okay, these are the general thing about all the accounts. So what about males versus females? Are there any differences? Who expects differences? This is what we found. Kind of the same actually. There are some little bit differences, but at the top there is
Numbers changed.
Yeah, numbers change, but still there are some differences, but still the top few are the same. Actually, top 5 are the same. If we check this by ethnicity, you can see actually here like black, white. You can, for example, white people use heart more than smiley faces than black people. Asians and Hispanics use, but at the end, the top are the same, which is one of the limitations of using frequency for checking the differences. Another good measure to use is actually some kind of differences, like chi-square or mutual information. These are things you use usually in statistics to tell you what is distinctive about this class versus the other group. So everyone is using crying smiley face at the top, but maybe some people are using it 5% of the time, and others are using it 20% of the time. They're still the top, but there are differences. So when we did that, this is actually what we found the differences between males and females. Can you see a difference now? Lots of red hearts by females and football by males on crying smiley face. Now we started to see this. Everyone is using them, but males are using this way more than females, and females are using this way more than males. When it comes to other ethnicities, you can see now black people using crying smiley face at the top, white people use hearts more than others, Chinese or Asian people using these stars more than others, Hispanics, by the way, this is Saudi Arabia flag. It came out as labeled as Hispanic, but you can see actually, you can see even in the black people with black emojis with black skin are coming out. So you can see some differences. So the question is, okay, there are some differences. Are these differences enough to predict the demographic of the user? Not using for analysis now, but for prediction. Can I build a model based on the emoji only to see actually if I can predict it? And by the way, the median number of emoji in the timelines per user was 20. So we have many users with only like 15, 20, 30 emojis only in their timeline. Some, of course, has 1,000, but the median is 20. Are these enough signals with the emoji alone to predict? And these are the performance compared to the text. It's kind of the text is useless. The emoji are enough signal to predict. So just the emoji I'm using, I can have 20 emojis use the latest 20 emojis used in your timeline, and they can predict your age, your gender, and ethnicity by over 80% accuracy. So the lesson here that minor signals that we might not think of can be predictive to personal information like our performance. Okay. So the summary here, we are highly exposed. And we are highly polarized, and it's always too easy to predict anything about users. From anything that any signal they have. Their network, their text, their emojis. So the question is, does it matter and how users appreciate or understand privacy in general? Do anyone cares about it? Which brings us to the part 2, users' awareness of privacy. This is the loud word.
This is my PhD.
Exactly. So we started actually by seeing, forget about the AI, maybe your friends exposing you. So we started by the first study, I think it was a very interesting one, saying,
I'm happy for you.
I'm happy for you. We searched for Twitter accounts for tweets which contain the phrase happy for you. That's it. And we started to analyze what is discussed in these happy for you and who is mentioned here. So we collected around 600,000 tweets with the phrase happy for you. And we subtracted all the mentions there, which are around 800,000 users. And we even detected if this mentioned person is public or protected, because it can be private accounts, not shared with profile public. And we subtracted the topics discussed in these tweets. At the time we used the LDA, currently you can use per topic and more deep learning stuff. And it was interesting that we could detect actually topics discussed in these tweets. You can see it can be helpful for some trouble, relationship starts, surgery, birthdays, graduation, marriage, even LGBTQ stuff, happy for you for the pride or something like this. And the interesting thing, good portion of these are protected accounts. They are private accounts. They actually want to, we don't see their tweets, but we learned that they got married. We learned they had a birthday from just the tweets they have. So we wanted to dig deeper to one of these. And we said, okay, what about the birthday one? Some of these tweets will be saying, happy 30th birthday for you. So if I said happy 30th birthday for you today, I can get your date of birth easily. So the question is, and we notice that 1% of the Twitter stream, 1%, the Twitter stream is about birthday wishes. So one of each 100 tweets is about birthday. And some tweets mention the age, the date of which you can get the date of birth easily. And the interesting thing, date of birth is used in authentication in almost everything we have, our banks, our accounts, anywhere. So if I got your account, your name, and I know your birthday from your profile, then I have your information. And the question was, how people react to having their birthday dates known publicly. Are they okay with this, or would like to hide it? So we got 3 million tweets with birthday wishes in 2 months. And we found around 700,000 unverified accounts. We filtered out the verified accounts because if everyone can be happy birthday for Messi, you will have 10 million tweets in 1 hour. So we ignored these ones and we looked on the unverified accounts.
By the way, at the time, only famous people could get verified. You couldn't pay.
Yes, I'm still not like now. It's before the disaster of Edinburgh.
I finished my PhD just before Elon Musk took over.
And interestingly, 10% of these accounts are protected, are private accounts. And when we check the profiles for all these users, only 3%, there's a 3% were sharing their birthday online on Twitter and their Twitter profile. So all of these people didn't share anything about their profile, their birth date, but we could extract. And over 1,000 tweets per day sharing the age as well. So you can take the date of birth of 31,000 people every day. And we checked actually the distribution of these ages mentioned in the tweets. You can see, usually at a younger age, there is some spikes at 18, 21, 30, and each of these ones. And you are less famous to get to have a 23rd birthday. It's less popular. But for the 18th, 21, you get more congratulations about it. So we checked actually how people reacted to these tweets. So once what we noticed that actually the percentage of the tweets, 60% would be liked, and Even over 40% will reply, thank you for your wish. And even some people will retweet it. So people are fine with this. Remember, 3% of those are sharing their birthday online. They don't share it. And so we said, okay, this is just big data. What about doing a survey to complement our findings? So we conducted a survey with 150 users, and we asked about their birthday on social media, they're sharing it or not, their reactions and any concern they have. And the findings were actually kind of aligning. They said, yeah, we like it, we reply fine to them, and we retweet sometimes as well. So we noticed that 70% of them were confirmed, oh yeah, it's fine to know my birthday. But actually, even 50%, no, fine, even not my birthday only, but my date of birth, fine, it's fine. I'm fine with this. So it was interesting to see that people are more open for sharing information about their personal information. And our assumption that about privacy, oh, this is private, don't say it, they're fine, man, they're fine. Over 30% are fine. And users don't really care that much as we think. And I think the message on this paper was saying to the authentication companies, please don't use date of birth because it's a public celebrated thing, should not be used for authenticity.
I remember calling NHS in UK, and you ask for your test results. They ask you for your surname and your date of birth, and you can get your test results over the phone. I don't know, and if your name is non-English, they don't even check if if your gender matches or not too. Like I know a friend asked for his wife, and then they don't know if the name is like, so they just get the surname, surname, and the date of birth.
Exactly. So we might be overreacting to the privacy, but people it seems to be not that much interested. Okay, then remember we found a good portion of these accounts are protected accounts, private accounts. So the question, okay, what about the protected accounts? How they see things in general? So this was another interesting study that Dilara did that she tracked over 100,000 accounts that are protected for 3 months. Okay, we found these accounts that to be mentioned, some of these many tweets we had, they are protected, and we kept following if they might appear anywhere else. Surprisingly, 40% of these accounts change it to public at a certain point. And in Twitter, if you change it from private to public, you will see all the tweets published during your protected account. Right. So everything will become public. And we noticed that 10% of them change it over 10 times from public. So a few days public, few days protected. We are playing with it. And when public, they started to tweet and mention more other people more. So my question is, why did they switch in the first place? We conducted a survey for users who switch their account visibility. And we started to see the accounts as the ones which are more public, most of the time are public, but they score protected sometimes, or more protected most of the time, or actually are balanced between both. So when we asked them why you switch, it was a survey and asked them to write down what they want, what they think. This actually our analysis. The reason they go public is to reach a broader audience and get more interactions with my tweets. And you can be public. Those who stay more public are, say, this more protection less. To mention that by other users who don't follow me. And on the other one, when you go to protected, they will tell you, I want to prevent my network from seeing tweets with personal information. They don't know when they switch back to public, everyone will see everything. Or to prevent the interactions from strangers and these kind of things. So it turned out that it's not about privacy. Sometimes it's about privacy, but it's not about privacy. Switching between public and protected are more common than expected than what we imagine, to be honest. And it's more about functionality versus privacy. They might say, so on, and regulating interactions rather than the content itself. So the question is, do users really understand how privacy when actually you are protected versus you are public, and they understand the functionality right? And this is how correct they could answer how that Twitter works. For actually individual tweets visibility and the public information, we know it pretty well, around over 80%. When it comes about interaction visibility, they didn't, around 50% only understand how it works. half of the people who go protected, they don't understand how it works. You just use it without understanding that when they go protected, when they go public, everything will be safe. So user assigned privacy on Twitter actually about their individual information, interactive visibility is unclear for many of them, and switching doesn't mean they understand, have a better understanding. We compare them to public accounts, the understanding are not, there's no difference between them. So the summary of part 2 here is that some sensitive information about users can be exposed by our friends. Users don't care that much about what we think is sensitive, like date of birth, for example. They use protected accounts not for privacy as we might think, and their understanding on how privacy works in general is poor. This is the users we're dealing with. Can we do something to help? Where is the question? Yeah, so you asked about if we can do something to help. So this is the part. Finding AI with AI. So the current situation, we know that users are bad in handling privacy, and users' undisclosed information or demographic or opinions are easily could be protected using AI. So the question is, can users guess the signals that can make them predictable? Can I know, oh, I know that you can't understand this about me because of my interactions. And I think this signal, because I'm following Trump, you will know I'm supporting Trump. And the first place you can understand what signals expose them. And the second question is there a way you can do with AI to help prevent them from being predictable? So we did a survey asking users about their opinion prediction. And we covered 3 topics of the 5 we had before. And we asked it for 1,000 participants in this case. We covered atheism, Hillary Clinton, and feminism. And we first asked them, what is your stance on each of these topics? And from strongly against it or strongly in favor of it, for these 3 topics. And how would you like to hide your stance? Do you want people to know this about you, or you don't want to? This was the question. So simply, this is what we noticed. We found actually that the users who said they would like to hide their stance on this topic with more than 8 or 10. So they really want to hide it, not want people to know it. So you can see actually for topics like feminism, if you're against feminism, 23% will say don't mention, or actually 23% are against, strongly against it, or against it, like a lot of people, 50% over 50%, they would like to hide their stance. I'm against feminism, but don't mention it. I don't want to be able to discuss it or arguments. When you are in favor of feminism, you're, most people fine, just, I can say it loud. The same thing comes to actually like Clinton, I'm against Clinton, but I don't want to discuss it and so on. But usually when people are against a certain topic, they would like to hide their stance for. So it seems that it's needed that people would like to hide their opinions in many cases. So the other thing was, we started to extract the signals from the classifiers that will know that will be predicting they are against or in favor of something. From each classifier, we know that following these accounts, retweeting for these accounts, sharing this word will make you predicted to be supporting or against someone. So we started showing these signals without telling them, is it true or against? And we tell them, can you guess? Show for each feature, do you think it shows that you are strongly against or strongly in favor of something? So I show them Trump, following Trump. You think following Trump will show you are strongly in favor of it or strongly against it or something in the middle? We check that to see if they can predict it or not. Surprisingly, these are the features or the signals that show you are against a certain topic, and these are the ones which are in favor of a certain topic. If everyone answers correctly, this will be all red, and if everyone's answered this correctly, it will be all green. But this is not the case. Many of the features that would show you are against feminism, people think it's actually on the other side. They think it should be actually in favor. They think it's make you in favor of feminism. And many of the things that will show you are in favor of feminism, think actually are against it. Interestingly, the correct answers about signals they are in favor or against it, only 29% for feminists, 21% for Clinton, and 55% for atheists. The other way around, 37, 58, and 45. They have no clue. It's even worse than random. You have a signal, you think, this will show me in favor of feminists, actually it shows you against it. So people don't know. For example, the word emails give you a good indication that you are have a stance on one of these topics. Do you know what could it be? One of these topics, the word emails, can predict your stance with very high accuracy. Just this word. Yes? Clinton. Would it show you pro or against? Against, exactly. Because actually this scandal of emails happened in 2016. It was shared a lot by Trump and people against Clinton. Those who are against favor of Clinton, they never mentioned it. So just the word emails by itself will give a strong indication they are against Clinton. Not everyone would know that. This is just a clear word. If I showed you an account, it's even harder. Because following Trump, for example, doesn't mean you are supporting it. Maybe retweeting it would be helpful. The question was that if there a way I can remove or inject some of the signals, these features, so I can hide my stance. So two methods I can think of. Remove some of the indicated features. I can stop following some people, stop tweeting some people to not be indicated that I'm supporting Clinton. Or I can inject opposite signals. I know these signals are pro Clinton or against Clinton. I'd like to inject some of these in my profile so it confuses them all. And examine removing and removing the adding feature, removing features, try with 1 feature, 5 features, 50 features, and see if it might help. And we tested it with multiple types of classifiers. Removing the features, who thinks it will be helpful, and how many features you need to remove from your account to be able to hide your stance? If I stop the following and retweeting for certain accounts, do you think it might help hide that I'm supporting these people?
Go for say 90% of the feature here.
That's a good point. So when you apply this by removing features, up to 60%, 60 actually not percent, these are 60 features, the top feature, the most significant features that indicate if you are in a given stance. If you remove them from your profile, not a single drop in the classification performance. It's not enough. I kept removing. Stop the following 60 people, stop retweeting 60 people, stop saying 60 words. It's not helping. The classifier can easily predict what your stance.
Already knew that even silent users are exposed.
Yes, but I stopped following 60 people. You still have your signals following, and it's still. But the main point, there are thousands of features in my profile, and 60 is not enough. What about the other way around, injecting? Do you think it would be helpful?
There are thousands.
Started to work. For some stuff like the easy ones like SVM, just after 10, the performance drops significantly. Others drops maybe after 30, 40. However, deep learning method from the CNNs, still the performance is high. So dropping is very, very slow. For the simple linear classifiers, it helps. For the deep learning models, it doesn't help that much. Yes.
What about the out of distribution situation? So, so today I'm assuming that, for example, you train the SPM model on a certain set of features and a certain set of accounts. When we are doing this, and there's feature importance, of course, when you're removing and you're predicting some. But let's say there were very different types of accounts. And would it still be the same situation, like in terms of the prediction? I'm saying so when we are like machine learning, as of course, like in saying that the split it comes from the same distribution.
Yes, yes.
So what if the scenario is the out of the distribution? Can we rely on this to generalize for all the sets of?
Yeah, that's a good point. The way of data collection itself for these accounts, at least we didn't create this data, but it has been based on some keywords. So you start to get accounts from all over around. It's just people who mentioned this. So it's not within a certain community. So I think it can a little bit be generalized. I'm not covering this study here, but we did something called the global distance detection. We applied it on not a this is very American topics, but but there are some topics which actually, for example, COVID, and we built it for data set for covering of over 70 countries. And we built one classifier and it was working amazingly well. Even from different communities, different languages as well. It was working well as well. So from this I cannot confirm, but from the other study, it confirms that these models are working well. Okay. So the summary here can be used to face other AI models that try to predict unwanted information about the users. But with deep learning, it's not that easy as we think. And this is the end of this part. You need a break because I don't you don't have a break. I need a break. Okay, so let's take what you're on.
Like you made 8-minute break, but when do you need to leave?
When do we need to leave?
We said 5 to shuttle.
Okay, so we have like more than 1 hour.
So can we take like an 8-minute break, 45 minutes, 10 minutes, yeah, 10-minute break. Let's say actually then 3:50. And then we'll do the second part. How long will we do that?
30 minutes maybe.
Okay, then we'll finish hopefully at 4:30.
Then let's get a 15-minute break, like
Okay.
half a day.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's come back at 50. Like 3:50.
Yeah.
Right, and then we'll go with the sections.
Okay, so this is last part of my talk, and given that I'm in Turkey, one of the countries in the Middle East, and many people here are from the Middle East, so it's worth sharing some studies about the Middle East. So this is kind of my interest. One of my biggest interests is to study the communities that others will not be studying that much, or actually maybe studying it from their own perspective, unlike the people who live here and knows actually what's going on, more than others. So this talk actually is going to analyze topics related to the Middle East and Muslim communities in general. Actually, it shows me my story about how I moved to computational social science. I did my PhD in information retrieval search engines. And I built a search engine to search social media. And I started to notice some interesting stuff there. I said, oh, let me study it. And it turned out to be called computational social science. And from there, I never went back. Continuing computational social science, doing a little bit of NLP, but computational social science is my interest. I will show some 6 different studies and an early alert, which is the Middle East. So political topics, sensitive topics, okay? So, but anyway, I think it's fine.
You have many political science students. I don't think might be sensitive for engineers, but from not or the social science.
By the way, so I gave these talks, some of these talks in Egypt, 2017, and after that I have been banned from giving any public lectures about it since then. So hopefully it will not be my last lecture in Turkey.
Hopefully not.
So this actually was my first study on computational social science ever. People changing opinion. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, maybe I'm a bit younger, but if you heard about the Arab Spring, you heard about Arab Spring, nice. And in 2013 in Egypt, there was actually a president elected, and in 2012 and 2013 happened something what we call military coup. And this actually study is made about it. And we call it military intervention, not a coup, so I can be able to visit Egypt. So, but scientifically, people call it coup. The scientific people of us. So what happened actually in after the election of the president in 2012 was the first democratic election president who actually achieved a score. He won by 52%. We are only used to 99%. It's the first time to see something like this. And however, there were some demonstrations at the end of June against this president called Morsi at that time, and because actually people said we're not happy with him after a year and so on. Then on the 3rd of July, which was like anniversary, 3 days ago, there came out the SICSS was still still there, who came out with ousted the president and said that that no, he'll be out and there will be a new election. Then after 1 or 2 days, people started to come out to the street saying that we'd like to protect our country from military coup. Turkey were successful in protecting the people against the coup. In Egypt, people were not successful. They made a big demonstration at that time saying we need our elected president, even if we don't like him, we need the democratic process to continue and so on. Then on the people has been sitting in one of the biggest square in Egypt for around 2 months and a half. And on the 14th of August, actually the army intervened and they killed. There are estimations between few hundreds till a few thousands people have been killed there to end up the sit-in, and the story has ended.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask a small question? In 2012, when Hosni Mubarak was like
He was there, and he was out of the revolution of 2011.
2011, yes, and then the military also.
The military ruled. That's okay. You're a political scientist. Yeah.
Yeah, and I recently watched a documentary from Al Jazeera about the.
Yeah. So what happened in the revolution started in January in 2011, and the president or the military said that Hosni Mubarak will be leaving in February, and then they ruled Egypt till they make a new election. And it happened in 2012.
Yeah, because I remember when the military announced all the people were celebrating, like
Yes.
one etc. And like 1 year after they're like against the decision. But
Yeah, we were naive. We were naive. Yeah, so at that time I was doing my PhD, and when the revolution happened, I came back from Egypt just 2 weeks ago, and then I went back. I was back from Egypt for 2 weeks, and then when this happened, I said I cannot continue. I have to participate. So I went to my supervisor. The PG, I told him, here is the password of my desktop, and I'm going back to Egypt. I'm not sure if I'll be able to come back. I might be killed there. And I went. And then Hosni Mubarak was ousted just 1 day after I arrived. So I just celebrated the day from participate in the revolution. But anyway, it's all recorded here. Thank you.
what's recorded?
No, it's recorded. This is someone else, not me. So this happened. At that time, I was building I was doing an expert in research on information retrieval search engines. And at that time, I built a search engine for searching social media, Twitter at that time, seeing actually what is trending and so on. Pure research on Python. However, at that time, this website that I created, which was automatically generating news from tweets and showing the trends, there was a strange shift happened that I noticed. Till the 3rd of July, before the 3rd of July, the trends was about people are against Morsi and calling the military to intervene on social media. Then on the 3rd of July, when the military coup happened, was announced, it turned out that everyone is against the military and they would like Morsi back. So I was, wow, people changed that opinion that fast. So we started to do a deeper analysis, and I collected 6 million tweets that was talking about this period from the 21st of June till the 30th of September. So before the demonstrations, till after the sit-in was actually clear and many people were killed. And we found actually within these 6 million tweets that there was 22,000 users who has more than 5 tweets about the topic during this period, in this 3 months period. And we built a classifier to label the data. You remember one of the methods we mentioned earlier that I cannot label. I'd like to see that tweet is pro-military interventions or against military intervention. And we built a classifier, we labeled some data, we built a classifier, and we kind of managed it with accuracy around 85% to label all the data to see actually who is pro or against, if the tweet is pro or against military intervention. Then we did apply a global analysis about seeing how the tweets that during this period was pro or against military intervention, and also observed this change over the users who has multiple tweets over this period. This is actually what I noticed, and that was how I motivated the study in the first place. The orange is pro-military intervention. They want the military to intervene to get rid of the president. And the blue is against military intervention and supporting Morsi at the time. You can see this is the military coup happened. it's like, it's not even gradual. It's just like from 70-30 to 20-80. And this actually was a big question that happened to me. Wow, people changed their opinion that fast. The trends are changing suddenly. So on the user level, we decided to see actually those who has more than 5 tweets that continue to success over the whole period. And we examined who changed their opinion within this period. Of course, we checked with the 5 users that have at least 5 tweets to around 20 users, and we went up to have more than 20 tweets, so we actually have more confidence. He has more content to share. And in this case, it's around 5,000 users. And we started to count the people who converted from being pro-military intervention to anti-military intervention, or the other way around. They were anti-military intervention and they became pro-military intervention. Of course, we expect this to be more because this is the shift we noticed. And this actually was the outcome. You can see there are usually, depending on how many tweets minimal you are, how number of users. Let's focus on actually the 20, which has more confidence. You can see more people are moving from pro-military to anti-military, and some people are still moving from anti-military to pro-military. However, what is the percentage of those within the whole population? This is a percentage there. 2% change in their opinion. 98% didn't change their opinion. So, what is that? How this is 2%?
Different.
Thank you. Observing globally change and trends doesn't mean change in the individual level. Groups feeling unjust tend to be more vocal. People who wanted them get rid of Morsi were very vocal before the military coup. Once it happened, they kept silent. They don't care. Those who were actually felt unjust that their votes in the democratic election has been deleted, they came to be more and more vocal. But on the ground, only 2% changed their opinion. We're talking about a period where thousands of people were killed, and only still 2% changed their opinion. This is interesting because if anyone here knows about the Egyptian community, within the same family, you will find people with different opinions. Its function was a trend. Like the elder people have different opinions than the new generation, because the new generation were the ones who did the revolution. And we had all these kind of discussions that no, who's right, who's wrong, you should not support this. After this finding, it was one of the most impactful studies in my own life. Because from this study, I heard no one is changing their opinion. I stopped discussing anything with anyone. Don't waste my time. 89%, 98%, you will not change your opinion. So out of 50 members of my family, can I change the opinion of one? Who cares? Stay as you are. So this actually was the first study that I did in computational social science and get my hands doing computational science, social science studies. The same website that we created to show trends about social media, what's happening, was interesting because after this period, there was another trend on social media that was very interesting. We noticed that people were showing that there was a lot of tweets supporting ISIS on social media in 2015 and 2014. Which was interesting because at that time, people were known ISIS are very extreme. Al-Qaeda think ISIS are terrorists. So you can see how extreme they are. So the thing is, who will be supporting them? So we started to study this. So we collected 3 million tweets mentioning ISIS in different names. And we wanted to label the tweets. You remember the labeling procedure we do? 3 million is a lot. We can build a classifier. Yes? We can label some and label, we don't have LLMs at the time. So we had to build a classifier. However, it turned out to be super easy. It turned out if you mention ISIS as a full name, Islamic State, or Dawlat Islamiyya, or whatever it's in Arabic, you are 93% supporting them. If you mention them as a short name, Daesh, which is Arabic word of it, or ISIS, you are 78% against them. So the way you mention them, it just reveals if you're against or supporting them. This is on the tweet level. When we go on the user level, if someone is consistently mentioning them as ISIS, or consistently mentioning them as a full name, if we have at least 10 times mentioning them in a certain way, with 100% I'm sure he is supporting or against them. So we collected the data and we labeled our users, and we ended up with those users who have more than 10 tweets about ISIS. We ended up with 50,000 users talking about ISIS at least 10 times, 11,000 supporting them, 46,000 are opposing them. Is it clear so far? Yes. So we decided to collect all the timelines of those users when it was the API, the nice time, which has disappeared now. So out of the 55,000 users, we collected 123 million tweets for them. Now we know the user is supporting them or against them. Remember, we mentioned 10 times at least mentioned them in a certain way. We are sure they are supporting or against them. So we started to think about, okay, what about identifying the first time each of these users mentioned ISIS for the first time? Remember, at that time, ISIS was a new thing. It appeared in 2013. It wasn't before in 2011 or 2012. And we started to filter out any accounts that they never mentioned, didn't have tweets before mentioning ISIS. So if we found an account from the first few days they started to mention ISIS, ignore these accounts. I care about the accounts which has more history before ISIS. So for each one, we find the first mention, whatever they mentioned it, and I make a split. The pre-ISIS era and after ISIS period. Okay? Then, from this, we managed to end up with only 7,700 accounts supporting ISIS, and we tried to take a random sample from the other side on the same size, 7,700 accounts who are against ISIS. And we wanted to build a classifier that can we predict from the tweets they have before ISIS appears, if we can predict if they will be supporting or against ISIS. Someone from 2010, 2011, 2009, what they were saying, maybe they were supporting Al-Qaeda, they upgraded to be supporting ISIS, or what's going on? And these features would be just the words, metaphors, nothing else. We didn't use anything else at that time. What do you expect with accuracy was? It was actually 87%. With 87% from the tweets they mentioned in 2009, 2010, and 2011, I can predict they are going to be supporting ISIS or not. When this research came out, news coverage covered it again, and they called us Minority Report, if you have seen the movie. The analysis here is more important. I really don't care about these results. Who cares? I want to know what are the features that made the classifier know that someone is going to support ISIS. What are the characteristics? Remember, my one is not to build the classifier for this, because this is biased the data. These are the people who talked about ISIS. Many people actually didn't talk about ISIS at the time, so it doesn't mean I can generalize this classifier. It's this actually for this specific data. What I care more about is what are the features that the classifier found to be indicative. What are the characteristics of those who are supporting ISIS publicly and those who are opposing ISIS publicly? The results was very interesting. We noticed that those who are supporting ISIS, they had a lot of support for the Arab Spring in 2011. And those who actually, the countries which has this revolution like Egypt, Syria, and Libya, they had clear discourse that they were supporting the Arab Spring. I was supporting the Arab Spring. I was part of the Arab Spring. But I'm not supporting ISIS. And again, this is a bias. It means that those who support ISIS were supporting the Arab Spring at some point, but doesn't mean that everyone supporting the Arab Spring is supporting ISIS. It's not mutual. Think about it. And even the countries who didn't have a revolution, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq, there was clear tweets they are opposing the regimes. They are opposing the Arab regimes at the time. So this is quantitative, and these are some indications. We did some more qualitative analysis. Actually, we had political scientists at that time helping us. We are many political students here.
Maybe they were supporting the Arab Spring because of the leader, like Egypt, Syria, Assad.
And this is the help we got at that time.
Yeah.
Some example, just this is an Egyptian account of one user who was supporting the Arab Spring and then switched to supporting ISIS. So in 2012, before ISIS appears, he was saying, don't be surprised if the trends today martyred as pretty with us. It was the Egyptian revolution at that time. People were just waiting for the election. It didn't happen yet, and the regime was still ruling, and they were unhappy. And they felt that the revolution we did was for nothing. We didn't achieve anything. So the martyrs who died in the Egyptian revolution are not happy, and they're spitting right from the sky. He's supporting the Arab Spring. In 2014, after ISIS years, on the 9th of November, saying, privileged schizophrenia, I like ISIS, but I want to watch Chris Nolan's new movie. It was Interstellar at that time, it's not a great movie. So these guys go to the cinema. He should be extremist. I was expecting an extremist person. Extremist people don't go to the cinema. A week after, he's saying, check the gazes of Bashar soldiers being slaughtered by ISIS, the Islamic State. So he's watching science fiction movies, and after he goes home and watches people slaughtered. So many examples of these from Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. We started to study this deeply. And the outcome we noticed that the support for ISIS at that time was not ideological. These people are not extremists. Many of these are not religious at all. But it was mainly for revenge. These people, after 2015, when many of the Arab Spring revolutions happened, started to fail country after country. In Egypt, in Syria, in Tunisia, and so on, people said, you know what, the peaceful revolution doesn't work. Who is fighting these ugly regimes violently? ISIS were supporting them. Now, without thinking about this, would be a very worse situation. They were just supporting them. Of course, after years, this is changing, but this was an interesting thing. So another thing here that we learn here, social data allows us to understand current behavior of user, and our hypothesis about users might be limited because our initial guess that these people were extremists, but they turn out they are not. Actually, there are many of them, they don't care about actually being religious or anything. It's mainly about revenge. That cannot be the situation.
I also want to say, like, you've been predicting very sensitive things, and considering that a lot of people sharing a lot of things with OpenAI, think about what you're sharing with OpenAI and ChatGPT and Gemini, and what about yourself? And you might even not realize that what you're sharing about yourself that might be used in the future to predict whether you're going to be an extremist or not. And then not only for this, but yeah, if you're going to be against the regime or not, right? Yes. And then you never know who is going to share your data with anyone. So please, as a privacy researcher, please, when sharing OpenAI, Gemini, whatever, know that your data is stored somewhere, and then people are going to use to nudge you and then hurt you at some point.
At least let's have some false information.
Or you can actually use AI with AI, right? You can just like put like false information.
It's not easy.
But it's not easy, yeah.
And remember when Pornhub contacted me? After this, the United States Embassy contacted me and they wanted to cooperate. I didn't go. I sent one of the authors.
They watched your models.
I said, one of the authors went. I told them I'm not sharing anything with any government. Okay.
Can I ask a question also about this? Because in like computational social sciences and also in computer science, you have this huge replicability problem, right? Reproducibility problem. And one of the things that we value as a society is open science, open source. There is some tension there, I can imagine. So what are the things that you consider when you, for scientific purposes, make stuff openly available so that other scientists can check work or can kind of build on the shoulders of giants versus accessibility for
you always have amazing questions. Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, this is perfect because first of all, we could not share the data because Twitter, in terms of conditions, cannot allow us to share the data.
Yeah.
In the first place. However, we mentioned exactly how the study has been done, so it can be replicated. At the time you have the APIs, you could do it.
Yeah.
But of course, sharing the models is something would be totally unethical to share.
Okay.
Because even we said this is our findings, we're not sharing any models. And at that time, we were working on another paper about ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And after this happened, we decided not to publish it. All the authors decided, you know what, we don't know how it's going to be used. Yeah. It might end up that actually people who are like innocent people would be harmed because of this. Mm-hmm. And when this paper is somewhere on one of the PCs of someone, one and not out there anyway.
Yeah.
And actually it was the last time I decided to work on extremism.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine the amount of funding that people came to offer us to work on this. And I would always say, no, I don't work on governments on this. Because I'm a scientist, I can say my 87% accuracy. My objective is analysis, your objective is security. You might end up that you have banished 99% who are bad, but one person is innocent. I'm not going to be responsible for someone like this. So I'm not sharing anything. It's sensitive, I have to say. But I think the findings are important to be shared.
Yeah.
I think this one helps because not everyone supporting ISIS at that time were extremists. Actually, the majority were not extremists at all. Yeah, so you have to be careful with this kind of research.
You also need to know these are open research. I'm sure hundredfold is done by governments on the fold, right?
Yes, and actually another thing, I found another paper at ICLSM during this period of someone was measuring extremism in Syria. And I criticized this a lot because the first poster was Syrian, and I found that he used a method that is totally incorrect. He was measuring extremism by how many times you were to mention the word Allah in your account. I told him, are you kidding me? Atheists in the Arab world would say Allah many times about Inshallah, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, everywhere, Abdullah, anyone. So Allah actually is a stop word in Arabic.
Yeah.
It's a poor word. You should not be analyzing it because it's everywhere. So, Christians, everyone is using it. Atheists are using it.
So this the first author was Syrian?
He was serious.
It seems like he was a white man or something. Like why?
And I was surprised. The whole team was doing a PhD somewhere else, but I was surprised. Why would you should stop this because this is a wrong answer. And this is why I think this kind of research needs to be done by people in the region to understand it better.
So, and how do you then navigate publishing? Because so if you actually look at these high impact journals such as Nature Human Behavior or like Collabora or other like computational social scientists high impact journals, they all request open source or accessibility for data and models and academic
You might be able to change the exact tweets using an LLM.
No, this was 150 million tweets. So the main thing is actually you should. We didn't publish in the Nature here. It was the first Monday. It was the top tier hypertext, which was a top conference at the time. So at the end, you have to have conferences like Kai now and other things. They don't request to share the data. So at some point, they understand the request. But at that time, it was against the terms and conditions of Twitter.
Yeah.
But you share all details to replicate the data and basically or replicate the whole experiment, and it's all already shared. The archer, this is mentioned in the paper.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I thought that Kai wanted.
No, the reversibility is here, but
I think it's a positive. Yeah, it's a positive point the reviewers might ask, but you can tell them I'm not going to share it because of the sensitive data, and then they would. I think one of the problems would be double anonymous because you with the Trump one, right? So you write a paper like this, and then they would think that you're a white man. And then why are you working on? Because they don't know your identity. I guess that's why now we have positionality statements where you can say like,
yes,
no, I am one of the members of this society. I'm not talking from the outside. I think Kai is okay, but maybe journals and political science journals might have different procedures. I'm not sure, but the conferences
are fine.
Yeah, conferences should be okay.
And there is some institutions like Open Science Foundation that you can put your data there and log it. Nobody can access. You can say the data is there, the methods are there, and you can trust me.
Okay, so another sensitive topic, Islamophobia in the West. This will again, I'm giving you my history of these studies. This is how I get. When you see I studied Portland, you can imagine why I need to take a break. So at that time, actually, it was stance toward the Muslims after Paris attacks. I'm not sure if you were around at that period. The Paris attacks happened in 2015, and there was a big support on social media because of this happened, and it was Brave or Paris was trending, and when people were still using hashtags. And then ISIS came out to announce they are responsible for this. It was the first ISIS operation outside of the Middle East, and There was at that time people came out to campaign against Muslims. Well, Muslims are terrorists, get them right out, and you can see they are killing us. And there was another opposing campaign saying, defending the Muslims, saying ISIS is not Islam. Actually, ISIS are killing more Muslims than non-Muslims. And just for the press operation outside of the Middle East. They have been killing many Muslims before. So at the time, we decided to collect some data, and we managed to collect around 9 million tweets in 50 hours, in 2 days, just after the attacks. About terrorist attacks. Interestingly, we found around 900,000 of these tweets mentioning something about Islam. It can be, of course, Islamic State, or it can be actually Muslims or terrorists, right? So we labeled this using manual labeling, then label propagation and different methods, and we end up labeling around 300,000 tweets, threefolds, attacking the Muslims, defending the Muslims, or neutral. Neutral can include attacking ISIS. If you're attacking ISIS, you're not attacking the Muslims. Or just make a distinction, clear distinction. Or sharing the user and so on. And to imagine what were people sharing at the time, these are the top English hashtags. From one side, people are supporting the Muslims are not terrorists, the Muslims are not, Islam is not, ISIS is not Islam. On the other side, Islam is the problem, radicalization, even kill all Muslims or deport all Muslims. These were shared at that time. So there was a big campaign from both sides. So the question was, can we predict what happens? Can we just see actually the users who shared this and see if we can predict and if there's going to be attacking or defending the Muslim in the future? So we focused on the people from the US, 44,000 users from the US, which was the last country had big users coming from it, sharing on this topic. Interestingly, 10,000 of those only mentioned something about Islam in their timelines before. So we collected their timelines, and only 25%, like 10,000, mentioned something about related to Islam in their timelines. The majority, 75%, which is 33,000 accounts, they never mentioned anything related to Islam or Muslims before. The good thing, the majority of them were supporting the Muslims. You can see the green is supporting Muslims, are more. So we decided to collect actually the latest, to check the latest 400 tweets before the attacks. And we could, which went total about 13 million tweets. So we could also look at the network interactions, profile information, and so on. And we wanted to predict from these different features, if we can predict if they're going to be supporting the Muslims, defending them, or actually attacking them. Remember, many of those, they didn't mention anything about Islam. They didn't discuss it at all. And the accuracy came out to be 88%. Again, very high, surprisingly high. And it turned out that the network interaction is way more important, which is similar to what I showed in the last talk. All of this, not important. What is important? What are the characteristics of these users? What is common between them? So we started to analyze the features of each of these groups. Those who are defending the Muslims or attacking the Muslims. Those who are defending the Muslims, we found that we are retweeting a lot for these accounts, which are more democratic. We noted that actually they are retweeting news from these sources, the Huffington Post and the New Yorker. It was interesting to find in their tweets, they were shared discussing previous topics in their timelines related to the following topics: Black Lives Matter, love wins, and gun control in the US. And more interestingly, we found a common signal between them that actually signals in their profiles that give indication they are going to be defending the Muslims in the future, that they were following these music accounts: EDM, Acapella, and Complex.
EDM.
Yeah. Strange. On the other side, who are attacking the Muslims, what they were doing, what are their characteristics? So they were retweeting a lot for these accounts. You might know them. They were actually using these sources of news, Fox News, the plays, Drudge Report, and they were using the hashtag TCOT a lot. Who knows what is TCOT? Top conservatives on Twitter. And more interestingly, a common signal between them that would show they are going to defend the Muslims in the future. They were following these sports: NFL, NHL, and NASCAR. At that time, it was a big surprise why these are coming out. And later on, when I speak to political scientists in the US, they say, oh, these are very popular in the South. South are the Republicans hate Muslims, and this is all makes sense. But for someone from outside, what is going on? But the lesson here that's interesting that people unspoken views are predictable. These people, many of them never discuss anything about Islam. And unrelated events and hobbies like music and sports can be indicative about what actually you're doing. Actually, there's a nice study by Karim Darwish about predicting the Turkish election, the last one. And it was interesting that from the TV shows and the food mentioned in the tweets, he can predict with an over 90% accuracy who's going to elect. Food, yes. Because those who actually elect are going to drink wine. This is one something like this. And then other stuff. And TV shows, I think there are different shows for each. But the main idea behind it is that humans tend to be grouped into a model. People who have the same interests or come from the same background, they come to be close to each other and create a model. And because of social influence, if some part of this group decided to make a decision, 75% never discuss anything about Islam, but by group, 25% mentioned to take this stance, I'm going to follow them. Even if I never discussed this before. Which is another social, I think this is some of the social theories we have. Another topic, fake news among the Arabs. This is a recent study about fake news. So it was mainly about the attitude towards fake news. There is a lot of big research in the NLP community about fake news detection. Giving a piece of news, is it true or fake? And there are thousands of papers on this, tens of thousands of papers. And actually, it has been always Hoover detection. Then 2016 election address happened, and fake news became a popular term. It's referred to radical fake news. However, there are missing lists about, okay, what about the users who are interacting with the fake news themselves? Who believes it versus who actually challenge or refute it? Do we know anything about this? So the first question for this study was, can AI predict if a user would spread a fake news or actually refute it? Check it and refute it. So for this one, we focused on the Arab region. Because it was interesting, there are 5 fact-checking websites in the Arab region who share the trending fake news, and they actually try to criticize and say actually what is the source, why it's incorrect, and so on. And they even shared the social media posts sharing it. So it was an amazing data set. So these are 5 websites like Fatabayanu, Ta'akkad, Associated France Press, you have one in Arabic and Spanish and so on.
These are non-partisan sources or no?
It includes everything, all the top shared fake news, okay, from any source.
Because there are, for example, some fact checkers in Iran that you can obviously see that they are just checking the fact news from some specific sources.
No, this is actually for whatever is trending on social media. We are doing this. So we collected all the fake news from these websites and all the social media posts that were shared. And we checked the sources, and now there are over 800 sources in the Arab region sharing fake news. 800 sources, mashallah. Amazing. We are always on the top record. So we started to collect all the tweets sharing these fake news, and including actually the tweets including these articles, which it's actually fake news. And we started to find 2 sets of users, spreaders and refuters. What we did, we detected all the users who either retweeted the fake news or replied in the comments or replied to these tweets sharing the fake news saying it's actually incorrect. And we call the spreaders anyone who shared more than 5 fake news in their profile as spreaders, spreading fake news, and anyone who refuted at least 2 articles of these saying it's incorrect, it's inauthentic, to be actually refuters. And we collect around 2,000 from each site. And interestingly, actually, these people are coming from all over the world. Many, of course, are more in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, USA, some of them USA, rest of Europe, and many other countries. So it's among all the Arab region. And for each country, you can find people sharing more fake news, and it's an institution of data. So it's not even specific countries about across anything. Actually, it's not even politics only. You will find like there are fake news about Ronaldo has converted to Islam 100 times, many times, and Messi as well. Everyone. And we built a classifier again with this users network and see actually if we can predict if the user is going to be a spreader or a refuter, so from your profile, are you kind of the people who are going to retweet this fake news or actually going to refute it? Again, the accuracy is 94%. We have to repeat this study multiple times because there's something wrong. It's very high. But now this is a situation. But who cares about the accuracy? What are the characteristics of these users? So spreaders turn out that usually they use local news sources that actually very local to their country. They actually follow a lot of the state-sponsored accounts that people who are actually famous from this country are sponsored by the government to spread certain news. And interestingly, the many sports news as well. They follow a lot of. Many of them are interested in sports a lot. And interestingly, you retweet a lot. Actually, the average number of retweets in their timelines is over 70%. So most of their timelines are retweets. They keep retweeting. So some of these are actually fake news. On the other side, it turned out to be following more verified news sources, authentic and verified ones. Follow more internationally verified them, following BBC, CNN, Reuters, and so on. Following UN accounts, official ones, to get news sources. And another thing that came out, they are playing PUBG. So if you play PUBG, this is good for you. So I don't know why.
Critical thinking.
I don't know. So the lesson here, the type of information we are exposed to, the kind of sources we're exposed to, affect the way we might believe or disbelieve something online. We did this kind of misinformation in our region. Another type of misinformation that we studied that is not studied by any other language, but is specific about Arabic, is religious misinformation. How many Muslims we have here? Okay, so for the others, there is something in Islam called hadith, which is a quote by the Prophet, peace be upon him. The quote by the Prophet, he said something, it's narrated and has been verified over years that actually he said it or not. And it has been studied well over centuries about what is authentic that has been said by the Prophet or what is most likely he said it or actually not. So there are different types. We say Sahih, which is authentic, we are sure he said it. Hasan, which is good, most likely he said it. Weak, which is we are not sure, probably he didn't say it, but we are not sure. Or totally fabricated, we know he didn't say it. 4 types. And there are 2 parts of it. One is who actually narrated it on the Prophet, and the other one, which is what is the exact quote. So the interesting thing, there was another study we did about actually the share of hadith on social media, and it turned out that there is a good portion of these hadiths which are authentic, they are fabricated, and people are still sharing it. So we found that Muslims share hadiths on social media. Some of these shares are fabricated. This is a study we did on this. And we consider this a kind of misinformation. You're sharing a quote to be claimed said by the Prophet. It's not. And we are sure it's not said by the Prophet. So the question was, who circulates it? Who debunks that? And what are the different characteristics of this kind of misinformation? So we started by a set of 2,500 fabricated hadith that we know they are fabricated, but it's still known by others. And even it has been revised by a Sunni and a Shia scholar. So we said maybe it's actually from the Sunni, they are actually accepted, but from the Shia, they are 14 fabricated. From the Shias, they don't think it's fabricated. So we get a Shia scholar from Lebanon, and he revised, and actually some of the fabricated ones that Sunni says fabricated, he filtered some, like 5 or 10, and said, no, we accept these. So actually we filtered them out. So we now, this is the agreed fabricated hadith. We searched Twitter for those who shared them, and search it Twitter as well for those who replied and said this is a fabricated hadith or debunked. And we call them circulators and debunkers. Circulators who shared more than 2 fabricated hadith, at least 5% of their timelines. And debunkers, those who at least debunked one of the fabricated. And we ended up not that much accounts, 560 and 560. And again, they are coming from all over, but you can see in Iraq, now it comes in, and Kuwait and other, but mostly from the Arab region again. And everyone is sharing everything. The classifier, again, based on the networks, which we may realize it's much better, accuracy 88%. Who cares? What are the features? This is what we noticed. So, circulators, they follow more religious accounts, interestingly. In general, they follow more religious accounts, but they still get into sharing the unauthentic ones. And interestingly, they are characterized by two main set of people. Sunni scholar, people are following Sunni scholar from Saudi Arabia who are pro-government, tend to share fake fabricated hadith. And those who follow Shia scholars in Iraq tend to share fabricated hadith.
I want to ask, any sports account followers, did you also did it classify your own sports account following? Because it seems like even in the sporting Korean Muslim one, there was NFL, etc., and then with the
It didn't come out. It didn't come
okay.
out. So
there's something like the sports following.
We don't go for sports specifically, just pop up. It didn't pop up here.
Okay.
But it was interestingly that mashallah, Sunni and Shia are, both of them are sharing public hadith. If you have no government in Iraq or Saudi Arabia, you are sharing public hadith. On the other side, the bankers, they follow more general accounts. You don't find them specifically following religious accounts. And it was interestingly that most of the debunkers didn't have any sharing following any Shia accounts. I think this comes because we have as a Shia scholar, the way Sunni authenticated the hadith over years was much deeper than the Shia. I think it's less. I was with a scholar. That's what he mentioned. But anyway, at the end, this is what came up. So,
Are those English hadiths?
no, all in Arabic. We started at the top watch. This is the top fabricated one. If you can read it, if you don't, but these ones actually, the top ones are related to the Ali, actually. It's a kind of that mainly it's just the conflict between Sunni and Shia, but the historical one came up in these ones. So these ones are mostly shared by the Shia ones, but still actually there are ones which are shared by Sunnis, which are not related to this part.
I was going to say, I think it's main conflict, right? It's about Ali or the Khulafa or stuff like that.
Yeah. So these are actually kind of the top ones came to be related to this, but not all of them, of course. Actually, it's on both sides. Some of them actually are some of them actually about Muawiyah, for example, one of these studies. So on the other side, so which is interesting. Both everything is fabricated. So the lesson here: religious misinformation exists within the Muslim Arab communities. Sunni and Shia differences has a role in this, of course. Some political links exist. Further implication, of course, is under research.
I think we need to finish maybe in 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Because at 5 they are going.
Okay. Okay. Are you okay with the last one, or shall I skip it?
Which last one?
It's about Facebook book censorship.
Yeah, let's do it. We need.
Okay, these are the last, sorry. It's related to actually the Palestine and the censorship of this Palestinian content. And actually, this was not on the Gaza thing. We had a recent one in Gaza thing in this guy, but this is actually the last guy. And it was about the change of Iraq, which happened in 2011. There was actually protests against the occupation in Israel and pushing people out of their homes. And after it happened, there was some protests worldwide about it, and people were not at the same scale like Gaza, of course, but it happened. And interestingly, at that time, people started to talk about it, and they realized on social media and so on, but they realized actually that many of these posts has been deleted, including myself. Actually, this was the main motivation for doing this study. So some reports came out about this censorship kind of thing, censorship. There was a report by Human Rights Watch actually which confirmed there was some kind of systematic censorship for the pro-Palestinian content on social media, on Facebook. And later on, there was a couple of studies which are more qualitative. People started to ask people what they think, what is your experience, and doing surveys. And it came out like this, and which confirmed that people have experienced some kind of censorship. However, for me, I'm a quantitative person. I love big data. So I wanted to count it. So the research question is, what is the content of these posts? Maybe they are actually required to be removed. Maybe they are actually against the Facebook community standards in the first place. So to do that, we decided that we need samples of the deleted posts. This is really hard. How shall I find the deleted posts by Facebook? What we did, we created a survey and a form and asked people, can you please, if you got any post deleted, can you please share it with us? Because no one can see the deleted post except the one who posted it. Because you can go there in their profile and see if this post has been deleted. And we asked them, please go and copy paste it as it is. If it has a picture, give us the picture. If it has a link, put it the link. And we started to spread this in our network as much as we can. I tried to find the influencers to help me spreading this kind of survey.
But you ask any verification from the users, and maybe they will just have some posts and then. I mean, it's true that you said that just to paste it, but maybe they have.
We manually checked every single product.
But it was deleted.
Yeah, but we check. But we manually check if the post makes sense that it has been a post. Because some people say, I had a post on that and that has been deleted. So we just don't ignore this. We need the exact content. If it was a clear copy paste, we took it. Okay. And after that, we also, of course, asked them about their opinion and so on, this kind of qualitative stuff. We end up after filtration and manual checking everything to 448. We started by 700, but of course we filtered out something that is not full information there. We just delete it. So it's 448. And we started to manually label what is the topic discussed inside, because it can be of anything. It doesn't have to be on Palestine. Then we came to the annotation process, one of the processes we wanted to do. First of all, we did crowdsourcing on Apple. This is the platform we used for crowdsourcing, and we claimed in the first place that we didn't say anything about Facebook. We said we are a social media platform, and we are building our platform, and we'd like to actually filter out anything that might be sensitive or bad or anything. So can you help us in annotating this data to train our classifiers? And the task for them was to check if the post violates guidelines. These guidelines was copy-paste from Facebook guidelines. Copy it and translate it into Arabic, and we told them actually check this. And in Facebook, there are 24 aspects to get something violating the guidelines. And we asked them which aspect exactly you think it's violating the guidelines, which exact aspect it violates, to understand exactly they are paying attention. And after that, we tell them, these are our guidelines, but can you tell us about your own opinion? Do you think should we capture or keep it or not? Then we did quality control by injecting posts that are actually clear hate speech and other ones which are pure fine. And these posts are around 50 posts there. And whoever gets less than 90% in this quality control thing, they will kick out with all their annotation. So we want to be sure that they are paying attention. And the interesting thing, we asked is for 10 annotators per post. We didn't want to get the opinion of one person or two or three. We said 10 for each post of this, we need the opinion of 10. And we end up with 106 annotators from 6 different Arab countries. So it was diverse. So the collected posts in the first place, remember that we collected posts and we annotated their topics. You can see actually these are the people, the demographics of the people. Usually they are between 18 and 40. And they are coming from all countries, mostly from Egypt, was probably my network. And the interesting thing, most of them are normal users, less than 1,000 followers, but there are some who are actually with 10,000 followers. Actually, there are a few who have very big influencer, over 15,000 followers. So we found even posts from influencers coming to our account. And we asked them, the question, remember, we asked them, do you think Facebook is biased or not? What do you expect they said?
Yes.
Of course, yes. 93% they are very biased. So this is what, who cares? We know this would be their opinion. Then the manual label, we label this each post according to topics. So what are the topics discussed? These are the ones we noticed. We found actually half of them, actually most of them, are about Palestine, either discussing Palestine resistance, or Israel or Jews. And around 19% about other topics like suicide, men and women, LGBT, and so on. But the majority, as you can see, 81% are about Palestine. Okay? So, we asked them, do you think it's violates Facebook guidelines or not? They didn't know it's Facebook, but it doesn't violate the guidelines or not. So 10 annotators per post, we are talking about 5,000 annotations. The distribution overall that these posts are violating the guidelines or not, this was the outcome. 60% of the annotation there is not violating anything according to the guidelines. Only 40% said, yeah, it's violating this aspect or these two aspects. But 60% said it's not violating anything. However, this is actually overall. Is it 6 versus 4 for every post, or actually for 60% of the posts are 10 out of 10 and 40 are 0 out of 10? We wanted to see on the post distribution. So the annotation per post, how many agreed it's violating? This was the distribution. Those posts which got 7 or more saying it's violating are 33%. Those posts which said less than 3 or less, saying it's violating is actually fine, are 53%. And there are some controversial around 15%, around 40-50% disagree. But interestingly, you can see 28% of the posts, 10 out of 10 said actually it's not violating anything. These posts are fine. 10 out of 10 said this post has nothing to violating anything. So there is something wrong happening here. Facebook is deleting something not according to the guidelines, it seems. But okay, this is a distribution. What are the topics discussed in site? This is actually according to topics. What do you notice? Yeah. When you discuss Jews in general, probably it's hate speech and people agree it's violating the guidelines. Once you go there, once you start to talk about Palestine or supporting the Palestinian resistance, people think there's nothing wrong here, but Facebook is still deleting them. To give you some examples, and these ones are a bit sensitive, so there's just a disclaimer at the beginning. So those samples of accounts which 10 of 10 agreed it's violating versus 0 of 10 agreed they are violating anything. So this is an example of 9 of 10. God damn the Jews. This is clear hate speech. And people agree, yes, it's violating, it's hate speech against a religious group. Of course, people in the Middle East think about Israel as Jews, not as Israel. So this happens commonly. But this is something happened. But people agreed, yes, it's against the guidelines. 6 out of 10, which is more controversial, oh God, help our weak brothers take revenge on these unjust Jews. You might think this is a prayer for Palestinians, but again, unjust Jews might be seen as kind of hate speech against Jews in general. So again, this was controversial. Stuff which got more people saying it's not violating anything. Down the Israeli aggression on Palestine support resistance. Most of the people said, what's not violating anything? One which got 0 out of 10, which is this one. Rest in peace, Ahmad Yassin. Who knows this person? 2. This is the founder of Hamas, Sheikh Ahmad Yassin. He's the founder of Hamas. He was a disabled person on a wheelchair, and he came out from the prisons of Israel after 20 or 30 years to establish Hamas to resist against the Israeli occupation. And people usually share his picture and say rest in peace for him, because in the Arab world, according to studies, social and political studies, 80 or more than 80% of the people think that they are supporting the Palestinian resistance. I think it's actually justified. So this is another thing. People think, why this? I'm saying rest in peace for some person who died. Why this is actually violating? No one thinks it should be violated. So the question again, is Facebook biased? Actually, it's not that easy answer, because when it comes to hate speech and self-harm, it's clear. The guidelines are clear and people think it should be removed. But when it comes to political stance, like supporting the resistance, the Palestinian resistance, if you think about it, how you interpret the guidelines. One of the guidelines say if you are praising a violent group or a terrorist group, it should be removed. So according to the US law, Hamas is terrorism. According to most of the Arab world, maybe the Muslim world, I can generalize, Erdogan in this country said Hamas a resistance group. This seems a resistance. It's like Ukrainian resistance. There is occupation, you're actually resisting it. So how do you interpret it in this case? The guidelines are there, so the interpretation is a little biased towards the American understanding, to the Western understanding of this. And it showed that marginalized communities during conflicts are kind of marginalized because you don't take their views. Of course, when people are against Ukraine, people in Russia will be supporting Russia, people in Ukraine will be supporting Ukraine. Iran and US, people in Iran will be supporting Iran, people in the US will be supporting US. Whatever you want. So during conflict, shall you take a specific stance from it? Think about it in this way. This exact example. Rest in peace, Ahmad Yassin. Shall it be removed? Who thinks it should be removed? Who thinks it shouldn't be removed? It's hard for people to think of. Think about it better about this example. Till 2008, Nelson Mandela was on the terrorist list of the US. Facebook came out in 2006. According to these same guidelines, if I said rest in peace Nelson Mandela in 2007, Facebook had actually the right, according to US law, to remove my post. If this is what people want on social media, for a global account, something like Facebook, billions of people are there, taking it specifically. So this is mainly the final study, and there are more studies about Palestine that we published in the, not me only, it's me and my different colleagues, and you can see many are coming out in Chi and group and CSW and every political NLP and macro NLP. And actually, this is the latest study we did. We took 3,000 hours of interviews with people who lived in Edinburgh from 1948, and it was all recorded, 3,000 hours, and we used Gemini to transcribe it with very high accuracy. More than was only 7%, 93% accurate text. And we released it for any researchers in political sciences, so social science, to study it, to make more studies on this. But the main takeaways of my last talk is CSS is an excellent tool to study our own communities. We are more aware of our communities. We are more aware of the main issues and the challenges our communities face. We are more aware of how to represent the research questions more precisely than anyone else. We are more aware of how to measure phenomena more accurately than others. So we should do it ourselves. If we didn't do it for ourselves, no one will do it for us, or can be done analyzed. And that's all for me. Thank you so much. Sorry for keeping you so late.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if you add, like, because like all the annotators were from, like, of course it's in Arabic, that's why you have annotators that speaks Arabic word. But if you had maybe Arabic speakers of like Western countries, they would have the differences of like.
Yeah, within a specific country, we just have to be speaking Arabic and